Here in the States, we're obsessed with pickup trucks, lowered trucks, lifted trucks, racer trucks, trucks for this guy? And today on Idealist, we're coming at you with the best first trucks that you can afford. Like, subscribe, and let's go. We're kicking it off with one of the all-time greats. With timeless good looks, just like your boy, the Cat-Eye Silverado is a tough option to beat for a first pickup. First of all, these things are reliable. Like, they actually crack 200,000 on the odometer regularly. Plus, they're super easy to upgrade and look friggin' awesome with the lift, wheels, and tires. Although they don't look 20 years old, they are. And in that time, they built up a huge aftermarket and community. So there's a wealth of info for DIY repairs, upgrades, and mods, which is great for a first-time truck owner. And because of the big old V8 under the hood, you'll have enough power to get out of any of those mud bogs you stick that beautiful face into. Now, those cat eyes give the truck an aggressive, classy look. It stands out, and you'll stand out because, well, you're driving it. And guys, check out all these ideal first trucks down below in the first comment, and see if there's one worth picking up. So, what's Trav's take, your favorite master mechanic on YouTube?
This generation of the Silverado was the last of the ridiculously reliable Chevys, in my opinion, even if they are powered by perhaps one of the least reliable transmissions ever made. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the inventor of the four neutrals, the 4L60E. Okay, that transmission isn't the greatest, but you can have it rebuilt and bulletproofed for like $1,500 And aside from the typical GM stuff you run into from vehicles of this generation, like instrument clusters going crazy, poorly designed tailgate trim, and the odd mass airflow sensor or set of spark plug wires, these things cost very little to keep going down the road for hundreds of thousands of miles. We've had one in the family for over 10 years, and at over 200,000 miles, it's still going strong.
And here's one lifted and modified that just sold for $9K. So, you like to shift it yourself? Well, a first-gen Tacoma is the living legend of third-pedal off-road fun. It will outlast literally anything on the road, and that's why it is one of, if not the most popular overlanding trucks ever made. It's lighter than other mid-sized trucks of the era, helping it float over terrain other lesser trucks would get stuck in. You get a mechanical transfer case, which is more buff than an electric one, and with over 1 million tacos built, you join a huge aftermarket community so you can modify it however you want to. The first gen also came with a 2-wheel peel pre-runner trim with 4x4 clearance, and those were designed to run the off-road courses. They're gas, but what's Trav's take?
Look, I've said it before and I'll say it again. These older Tacomas just aren't really my thing, but that doesn't mean it shouldn't be yours. No other truck holds its value quite like a Toyota, and there's a good reason for that. These did have a slight problem where the entire frame would rot out due to moisture building up inside its untreated, fully boxed design, but Toyota recalled them, and most of them still on the road have been fixed. It was a big deal. I mean, replacing a whole frame is no small task. So before you buy one, check it over thoroughly for rust. Besides that and the odd cracked cylinder head or failed head gasket, they're pretty solid.
Guys, I'm digging this 4x4 extra cab that just went for over 10K. Yeah, everybody knew that an F-150 would be on this list for first trucks, and it's America's #1 best-selling truck for a reason. We recommend the 10th generation for your first F-150 because they had 9 previous generations to figure it out. No, personally, I think the 10th gen has some great looks because it's a little more rounded aerodynamic looking than previous gens. I mean, maybe it gets you better gas mileage than the more boxy 80s Ford trucks. But regardless, these things are workhorses, and many are still on the road because they're extremely well-rounded. It's a classic, and if you can find one of these step sides, it's a step up. So, what does Trev have to say about the 10th gen?
You've heard me flame on the Triton before, but truth is, these older 2 valves were way less trouble-prone. It's gonna come down to how it's been maintained over the years, and if you don't want to risk the headache, you can find them with the bulletproof 4.6. You know, the same engine that powered all those taxis and cop cars well past 300,000 miles that Cletus still rips around racetracks today? My advice? Just find the cleanest, most well-maintained example you can, and then continue to care for it to the best of your abilities, and it'll last you a good long time.
Yeah, and here is a great example of what you can get from Ford for $10K. I love me some 3rd gen Rams. I mean, it's a huge step up in design, performance, and features from the boys at Dodge. And look, those 2nd gen Rams are iconic, but you couldn't get them with 4 real doors. And with the reintroduction of the legendary Hemi V8, this truck sounds as good as it looks. It's still a full-size budget-friendly companion that's built to tow, haul, and carry at a price point that only a few other trucks on this list can actually match. Inside, it's a simple yet useful design, which is exactly what you want if you're looking for function over fashion. And side note, this was the first time a full-size truck didn't steer like a piece of farm equipment, so it's not that bad to drive either.
I love the looks of this generation Ram. And like Brad said, that Hemi is pretty freaking awesome. It does occasionally develop exhaust leaks here and there. Similar to the 2nd gen trucks, the big one to look out for on one of these is going to be the transmission. Contrary to what the internet would like you to believe, they're actually not too bad. But they very often were never serviced adequately, which led to some problems. Besides that, they're pretty good. Quick side note though, these pickups were offered with a V6 that's frankly garbage, and the same 4.7 liter V8 found in Jeeps in the smaller Dakota, which honestly isn't a bad engine, it's just not a great match for this truck in my opinion. Which, speaking of Dakotas, Brad, that truck better make this list because a 4-wheel drive quad cab Dakota is another solid option. And I know what you're gonna say, I know you are.
Moving right along, snag this big horny Ram for $11K. You know, sometimes you just don't need a full-size truck. Sometimes that means it won't come with a full-size price. And the Ford Ranger is that mid-level option. That's actually fun to easily slice through the city, and yet you still have enough clearance that your ideal co-pilot will be able to tackle any terrain off the tarmac, especially when you opt for the 4-wheel drive option, which yes, means that you can get a 2-wheel drive version, which will cost less and gives you better gas mileage and still is about 80% capable. Now, know that you're not towing what other trucks can tug along on today's Idealist, but you can still attach something smaller to the hitch. You know, the Ranger is the most car-like, but still has all the conveniences of a truck bed in the back. It is like a bullet. And it's old school cool. These 3rd gen trucks are the move because they come with the OBD2, which makes them a whole lot easier to work on. And unlike the 2nd gens, they've actually got ABS, which is actually a good thing. But what's Trav's take?
Ford f***ing Ranger! I dated a girl in high school with one of these. Or maybe I just dreamt I did. Either way, the Ranger is a legend. They're cheap, they're reliable, and honest to God, a Ranger is all the truck most people will ever need. They don't tow a whole lot, and the bed is quite a bit smaller than its full-size brothers. But try living with a full-size truck in a populated city like Seattle, and you'll realize bigger isn't always better. Ask me how I know. There have been a few with reports of cracked cylinder heads, and the automatic transmissions can start flaring and slipping, but most of these can be fixed with an updated part from Ford. Honestly, there isn't a whole lot that commonly goes wrong with the Ranger that isn't just kinda standard old car stuff. You know, occasional water pump or fuel pump or valve cover leak, maybe the multifunction switch, stuff like that. The biggest problem you'll face is just finding one of these that doesn't have 250,000 miles on it, and one that hasn't been beat to death more than once. But get a good one, and I promise you'll quickly figure out why these little pickups have such a huge following. They are, in my opinion anyway, tragically ugly. But that's all part of the charm.
Yes, grab a legend for just a little over $7K. A classic full-size pickup with Japanese engineering? Tell me more about this match made in heaven. There's something just so pure about the 1st gen Tundra. Maybe it's simpler, easier to repair, and easier on the checkbook than most trucks. Or maybe it's the otherworldly reliability, consistently hitting 300,000 miles and beyond. Whatever it is, you know you're getting all the advantages of a great pickup that can be your dependable daily or off-road monster. The choice is yours, but what does Trav think?
In my experience, the most common problem with the 1st gen Tundra has got to be the exhaust manifolds. They develop cracks, and they have a habit of breaking studs. It's more common on the V8, but it happens on the V6 too. The biggest pain point, though, lies within the radiator. The internal transmission cooler fails, and allows coolant to mix with transmission fluid. Usually you won't notice until it's too late, and by the time the transmission starts slipping or shuddering, chances are you're gonna need to have it rebuilt. Now, I've actually had success replacing just the radiator, flushing the cooling system and the transmission recovers. But I'd argue that its life has been significantly shortened. Lastly, rust. The underside of these trucks in particular seems to rust out more quickly than some of the others on this list, which can lead to things like failed ball joints or the parking brake cable just coming apart. Just inspect closely under there before making a purchase. Oh, and don't forget these trucks have timing belts that need to be replaced roughly every 100,000 miles. If the belt jumps or breaks, it's gonna be a bad day. So just keep that in mind.
Boom! Get a reliable Tundra for under 10. Practical. Yes, practical, no BS Nissan truck that is affordable and economical. The Nissan Frontier from the second generation is a compact pickup that made a super strong impression when it hit the market, and is still a great choice today. It's both practical and capable, and it will definitely surprise you as an off-roader seeing that it shares the same platform with the Xterra. And there is this cult following, the Frontier, so aftermarket support is plentiful. And the fact that they kept building this body style all the way up until like 2 years ago means that you're gonna have a contemporary looking truck that's even, well, almost 20 years old.
This truck comes from a time when Nissan was still building pretty reliable cars. Weirdly though, these suffer the same exact transmission cooler problem as the Toyota Tundras, so get a pre-purchase inspection to make sure the transmission and cooling system check out. Then just go ahead and replace the radiator and service the transmission for good measure. Trust me, it'll be a lot less expensive than replacing the whole transmission. Unlike those Toyotas, these have a timing chain that apparently some of these suffer from problems with. I've never personally seen that though, so I don't really know. My advice on the Frontier would be to find the best one you can afford and have a reputable shop go through it with a fine-tooth comb before making a purchase. If it all checks out, keep up on the maintenance and it should take good care of it.
So grab a stalker for just 5 or go throw gas for 15. What a blast from the past. The Walker Texas Ram with a V10 that's a beast of a motor, producing almost too much torque to tow your heavy trailer or your yacht. In fact, on their debut, they made more torque than the Cummins, way more horsepower. Plus, in my opinion, these are some of the best looking trucks ever made. They came out at a time where all the competition was designing pickups using exclusively right angles. And these being 2500s, and especially the 3500s, you're gonna have substantial payload capacity, which is great if you need to carry heavy equipment. Now this one won't be the most capable off-road because of its size and weight, but it still gets down when things get slippery. Plus, the Unicorn is the 2003 that they offered with this V10 and a manual transmission. Yeah, it's the newer generation. So if you want more contemporary styling with the tried and true 8 liters of V10 Fury, be on the lookout. So what does Travier have to say?
I've been low-key hunting a 2003 Ram V10 for a while. I definitely don't need one, but one can never have too many cylinders in this thing. If you can find one with a manual, well, that's the move. You know, Chrysler transmission reliability. But I'd be perfectly happy with either gearbox as long as it's a 4-wheel drive quad cab. I'm getting off track. Listen, these trucks are pretty stinking reliable, and if anything does go wrong, it's a lot cheaper to fix than its Cummins cousin. Second gens have some less than desirable interior traits, and you will pay for it at the pump, seeing as the old second gen V10 that I had got, well, 9 miles to the gallon. That's the price you pay, I guess.
And here is a 2500 with the 8-liter V10 for under $9,000. And now it's time for the honorable mention. And guys, you know we can't talk V10 Rams without mentioning one of the coolest pickup trucks the madmen at Mopar ever cooked up. It's got V10 power, and this time with an aluminum block, pulled straight out of a Viper, and an optional 6-speed manual transmission, and burnouts for days. Guys, Snag Trap's favorite Viper-powered monstrosity for just $12,000. Okay, when Ford says that these trucks are built for tough, there is a very good reason for that. They're big, they're burly, and look. Yes, it looks like it weighs 7,336 pounds and can pull a whopping 11,900 pounds when you need, but it actually is a very easy truck to live with if you live on a ranch. This is a land yacht that won't fare well in city driving, but it's a great option if you're looking for a comfortable and accessible price point into full-size Super Duty ownership. Now, the Power Stroke diesels and the older F-Series trucks aren't so great, and the optional 6.7 that was released in 2011 is supposed to be way better, although a close friend of ours just had his blow up at 160,000 miles. Go for the gasser, and while you'll probably need to take out a loan every time you fill up the gas tank, it will last forever and haul anything, anywhere, anytime. Trav? Thoughts?
That 6.2 liter V8 is overall a rockstar engine. Some of them had some problems really early on, but truth is the biggest problem with these trucks isn't drivetrain related. It's more so just random Ford build quality issues. Infotainment systems, HVAC systems, reverse camera failures, AC leaks. The trucks themselves, well, they got issues, boys. The good news is that all the common problems are well documented, and for the most part, parts are cheap. There's no reason to shy away from one of these pickups as long as you can afford the fuel costs.
Yeah, these things go forever, and here's one for 16 grand that's been barely broken in. Now guys, let's step back before the cat eye, because there was this. A very distinctive design on one of the best trucks ever made. Owners love them, and it's easy to see why. You can lift them, or you can slam them on air. Either way, these things look ideal. It was the stiffest and lightest truck frame GM had ever built at the time, which gives you great performance as a truck. Plain and simple, Chevy knows how to make great trucks, and they've been doing it for well over 8 years. These babies drive more like Cadillacs than, well, I would just love to own one. But what do you think Trav's gonna say?
Okay, now this is probably my #1 pick for trucks on today's list. Like the Cat Eye Silverado, the 04 L60E in these can be a bit soft. But honestly, besides that, there's not a whole lot that goes wrong beyond typical used car stuff. Alternators, radiators, that sort of thing. I'm pretty into it.
Guys, here's your redheaded beauty for just $7,500. So what's your first ideal truck if I gave you my mom's credit card? Let us know below. And like, subscribe, turn on that noti bell, and check out this Ideal video up here. I'm Brad, this is Ideal, and promise me one thing, keep living the ideal lifestyle.